Greetings, retro lover. This is Ethan, aka the Ghost Mall, coming to you yet again from my home studio. I produce 80s and early 90s retro synth pop and soundtrack style music. And in this video, I want to do something a little bit different. I actually wanted to just talk with you about a bit of a controversy that has emerged recently in the music industry due to a particular case happening to a high profile artist. And I wanted to talk about what it might mean for songwriters and producers and musicians in general, but also specifically for folks like me who work on trying to achieve some kind of sound akin to a retro style. So I recently watched a video by Rick Beato. I don't know if you know him, but he's great. He has a wonderful channel here on YouTube concerning music theory, production, composition, songwriting, all that stuff. Um, Wonderful channel. You should definitely check him out. But I was watching Rick's video that he just posted concerning a lawsuit which has been brought against Ed Sheeran by associates of a songwriting partner of Marvin Gaye. And in Rick's video, which I'll link up in the description to this video, he does an excellent job of sort of breaking down the technical aspects of whether or not this lawsuit seems valid from a musical standpoint. But I wanted to talk about more whether I think it's valid from an artistic standpoint and what its implications are for creativity, especially in genres of music that practically require a reverence to and an intent to pay homage to older songs. So, okay, so the particulars of this case, what's happening? This is now the second lawsuit that is being brought against Ed Sheeran concerning his song "Thinking Out Loud," which was a hit a few years ago. And I remember hearing it and not thinking a whole lot about it. But I will say, I never thought that it really bore a resemblance to Marvin Gaye's mega hit classic song "Let's Get It On." I like both songs. "Let's Get It On" is, like I said, a classic. Certainly for somebody like me who loves retro pop music and also soul and R&B music, that's a classic. "Thinking Out Loud" is a great song. Never when I was listening to "Thinking Out Loud" did "Let's Get It On" come to my mind. Well, why is this important? Because as I was saying, in these two lawsuits, the family and also some former business associates of one of Gaye's co-writers, Ed Townsend Jr., are alleging that huge portions of "Thinking Out Loud" are essentially ripped off from Marvin Gaye's "Let's Get It On." Specifically, and I've taken some notes over here, this latest lawsuit alleges that the melody, rhythms, harmonies, drums, bass line, backing chorus, tempo, syncopation, and looping, whatever that means, of Let's Get It On were lifted by Sheeran. And this is a very serious lawsuit. This is a $100 million lawsuit, this latest lawsuit. And that's just one of two concerning this song and this particular alleged infringement. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, $100 million is an amount that I can't even get my head around, probably for you as well. But just to give you a sense for how much money that is, I'm sure that even to Ed Sheeran, $100 million is a lot of money. So, money aside, what does this mean for music, right? What does this mean for creativity? What does this mean for the music industry and beyond the financial aspects of the industry, the creative aspects of the industry? Well, it bears noting here that this case, while it's important and the verdict in this case could be important moving forward, it already has a precedent that was set in a case a few years ago, also interestingly, and perhaps not coincidentally, concerning another song by Marvin Gaye. So this is echoing, it was in 2015, a jury sided with Marvin Gaye's children in a lawsuit that had been brought against singer Robin Thicke and producer Pharrell Williams of the Neptunes and of Get Lucky and Happy fame. And what the suit alleged was that their hit Blurred Lines, which I think was the biggest hit of the year it came out, essentially took the majority of its substance from Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up. And if you watch Rick Beato's video about this case concerning Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud, he notes, and I would definitely say the same thing, that the similarities that you could find between Got to Give It Up and Blurred Lines are not nearly as notable as the similarities between Thinking Out Loud and Let's Get It On. And yet, Gaye's family prevailed in that lawsuit, and there was a $7.4 million settlement that Thicke and Williams, and I presume their record label, had to pay to Gaye's family. So, what does this mean? I think that I have a quote here from the lawyer for Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams that this is something he said in his closing arguments during that case, and I think it sums up my concerns very well. He said, prior to the verdict coming down in favor of Marvin Gaye's family, that a verdict in their favor would, quote, have a chilling effect on musicians who are trying to recreate a genre or homage to another artist's sound. Yes, definitely. It does have a chilling effect. He's speaking about somebody like me in particular, because, of course, I create retro synth pop and soundtrack music. I am very deliberately trying to recreate the feeling, the vibe, the sounds, and the nostalgia of a previous era. And in doing so, I am going to be grabbing, the fruits of those trees and putting them into my own recipe, grabbing those ingredients. That's by definition in the style of music that I'm making. But even a musician whose intent is not solely or primarily to recreate or to pay homage to a previous genre or era of music, this is a significant issue because, and here we're going to get into what does it mean to be creative, what does it mean to be original, and what does it mean to steal or to plagiarize? Because first, I should say, I personally believe that plagiarism is a very serious issue, whether it be in music or another form of art, whether it be in writing. I used to be a school teacher, and I definitely encountered plagiarism in papers that were given to me, and it always really got under my skin because it is an attempt to pass off as your own something that you didn't create, that you didn't put effort into creating, and to take ownership of something that you don't own. And so that to me is a theft of a real terrible kind, because it's not just a theft of material, it's a theft of ideas, which to me are some of the most valuable things we have as human beings. Ideas are beautiful philosophies, are novel forms of art and artistic expression. Those are some of our most valuable assets. Whether you call it intellectual property or whatever euphemism you want to use, that's of the highest order of value, what humans can create. And when you try to not only take it, but dishonestly say that it was you who created it, yeah, that definitely gets under my skin. So I don't for a moment want you to think that I am downplaying the terrible nature of plagiarism. However, it is also inherent to any creative, especially artistic pursuit, that the creator, the sort of conduit through which this new thing comes into the world, whether it be a song, whether it be a painting, whether it be a video on YouTube, whatever it might be, an essay, a book, a novel, a stand-up comedy routine, that conduit, that person, did not come from a vacuum. I did not come from a vacuum. So even if I wasn't in the retrowave genre, trying to recreate the music that I loved in my youth, and I've written in numerous different genres of music, from reggae to country to lots of hip hop and R&B to alt rock and folk rock. Even if I was still today working in those genres of music, there's no escaping, for me personally, the influences that I've listened to countless hours of throughout my life. And not just the music that's influenced me, but I've also been heavily influenced by visual arts, by movies, by TV shows, by the video games I played growing up. I've talked a little bit about on this channel. There's no escaping that. Now, it is never my intent, and in fact, I deliberately try to avoid, and because of cases like this, I'm now increasingly feeling that I need to avoid stealing from any of my inspirations, stealing from any of the artists or songwriters who I look up to and adore. But those ingredients have been poured into my consciousness for almost 4 decades now, in my case, and there's no escaping that. So they are going to come out in my music. They're going to come out in my lyrics. They're going to come out in the melodies I think up. They're going to come out in the chords that I play. And for courts to set a precedent, and in jurisprudence, precedents are super powerful. When there hasn't been a case yet to determine whether or not, what side the court should fall on, and then that happens, in subsequent cases, judges and juries, when a new case that's similar is brought before them, they are going to look to precedents from previous cases for guidance. And in this case, we do have a precedent that was in favor of Gaye's family on the matter of whether or not Blurred Lines was lifted from Got to Give It Up. I frankly am not feeling super great about Ed Sheeran's chances of getting the suit against him thrown out because Thinking Out Loud does sound to the casual listener and even to experts like Rick Beato on his channel, like it is at least derivative of Let's Get It On in certain respects. However, there are questions about whether or not and to what extent that's deliberate, that matters. Was it intentional? Whether or not it was intended to be just for the sake of profit for the person creating the derivative work, or instead as a form of tribute or homage. I think that matters. And then there's the extent, to what extent was this taken from, consciously or unconsciously, another work? Because I can assure you, to the extent that it does happen, and it does happen frequently, and it's even happened to me, and I've had to go back and change some things, I would say in most cases, it is not instrumental, it is not intentional, it is unconscious, the extent to which we take bits and pieces of our favorite works and put them into the things that we are making. I don't know if that was the case for Ed Sheeran or for even Robin Thicke or Pharrell Williams. But what I do know is that this is creating a situation where musicians and songwriters and producers are going to are having to look over our shoulders way more than we ever did, and that stunts creativity. And that is my fear, that it is going to limit our willingness to just sort of naturally move forward with something that sounds good. And for me, at least the early stages, the critical starting stages of creating a song are all about just letting things flow. And if I'm always nervous of, oh wait, did that sound like Depeche Mode, or does that sound like, did that sound like Teddy Riley? Could I be facing a lawsuit from, Naked Eyes or the guys in Hall & Oates or, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis? And I'm going to take my hands off the keys and stop writing. That's my concern, that we are setting precedents in our courts in cases such as these that are going to limit people's willingness to create works that are original because they are coming through you as a unique person who is the greater than the sum of all of your influences, but that do have elements of what you love in them. So I know that was a bit of a rant. As I said, I don't have the final say on any of this. These are just my 2 cents, and I really invite you, please, to make use of the comment section underneath this video so we can have a discussion about this, because I think it's an important topic. I think that plagiarism is a serious issue, and I think that creating unnecessary fear and sort of false restraints on creative work because of the inevitability of influences and inspiration sort of trickling down through the years, through the eras, that's a big issue too. So I think I'll cut it off there, but I just wanted to bring this case to your attention, give you my few cents on it as somebody who produces retrowave music as my primary, genre of music, and invite you to have a discussion with me about it. If you thought this was interesting, Please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm always putting out new content where I give you looks behind the scenes while I'm producing my own retrowave tunes, talk about songwriting, music production, all things retro, all things music, all things nostalgic. And if you like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up or maybe share it with somebody who might have something to say on this matter. And until next time, I hope you will be well. Go out and create something. Try not to look over your shoulder too much while you're doing it. Stay retro and take it easy, guys.